we have our great presenter, Andrea Muffley. I will have to just kind of let you guys know, as always, things happen. I think everybody's used to things happening a lot this year, right? And so what else would happen to us but Andrea's internet went out. And so no worries, we're going to still continue on with today. She is just going to be participating by phone, and then I will go ahead and move and manage all of her slides. So we just ask for your patience and your grace as we get through this the best that we can today. Our topic today is trauma and early childhood development. If you guys missed part 1, feel free to access the archive. Everything is posted, as well as the handouts on our website. And Jeannie, if you don't mind just dropping that in the chat box as well. But I want to go ahead and introduce Andrea. Andrea, she is an occupational therapist. She works for Helping Hands Therapy in Virginia Beach. She also is an adjunct faculty at South University. She's a master trainer in the Adverse Childhood Experiences, better known as the ACEs. So I would just really like to thank Andrea for presenting and sharing your wealth of knowledge with us. And I'm here if you need me as you continue on, and just let me know how I can help you. But I'm going to go ahead and let you take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for sticking with me. I think this is true to all of us as early intervention providers. If we can't do it in the home, we're going to sit in the car tied to our cell phone, praying that our battery doesn't die to meet our clients and to meet our goals. So I appreciate you all staying with me for this. So if we wanted to move forward, I'll give you a little bit of a recap of what we talked about in part 1. So the first part of this presentation focused on trauma and the brain architecture, ACEs, the Adverse Childhood Experiences study, different types of stress, and self-regulation. Today's talk is going to be even more focused. Today we're going to learn about trauma and wellness, being informed care providers, and specific strategies to reduce stress for our families and ourselves. So I hope you guys all have coffee ready. We're going to move forward and get started. At this point in 2020, every family you are working with has experienced trauma. Now after COVID-19, we all have collectively experienced a big T, capital T trauma. Everyone we were working with before has experienced little t trauma. But at this point in 2020, we've all been affected by the COVID pandemic. So I'd like to hear from you how the families you serve have been impacted by COVID-19. You can type your answers in the chat. Zoom fatigue, I think, is something we're feeling a lot of right now, me, myself included. You guys saw the beginning of this presentation. We know that Zoom fatigue is real, working from home, being overwhelmed, families working, trying to balance work, life, virtual school, getting sick, job loss. All of these different things have created different boundaries, leading to more boredom, more screen time, less socialization opportunities, coupled with the election anxiety. This has been a big deal for all of us. So, thinking about all of that, I know I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed. So let's go back to what we do best. Let's figure out how to serve the families we work with. This goes to the backbone of early intervention providers. We view the family as a whole. We know that trauma and toxic stress are complex, multi-layered, and multi-generational. When one part of the family is impacted by trauma, the entire family unit is affected. And at this point, I can say every family we're working with is being impacted by trauma to the point where it's affecting their health and their wellness. So my next question, again, is for you guys. How confident do you feel addressing health and wellness? You can use the poll feature to see if you feel confident, okay, a little more confident with some families than others, or you're not as confident as you would like to be. But either way, you guys are all rock stars. Okay, the poll results are showing a lot of rock stars with varying degrees of confidence. This is all something you've seen before, but at this point, we need even more strategies in our tool bag. So let's move forward and we'll talk about wellness. When we think about the coaching model, wellness is what we do. As early intervention providers, we help parents and caregivers become more aware of their child, provide strategies they can choose to use to support their baby to be more successful. This aligns perfectly with the definition that wellness is an active process through which people become aware of, make choices towards a more successful experience. We cannot learn and grow when we are not well. And that's going to be the hallmark of this presentation, building wellness and building resiliency, because that's something we can all use a little bit more of. But how do we do this as early intervention providers? Let's chat about it. I bet you guys have a lot of great ideas, and I'd love to hear them. Being supportive, being a good listener, more confidence boosting and encouragement, being mindful of emotions and feelings of the families we serve while being non-judgmental, normalizing feelings, having open conversations, being patient and understanding, reminding parents that they need to take care of themselves first to take better care of their child, building in relaxation breaks between virtual meetings, as we're on a virtual lunch call right now. So we can also do this by engaging in self-care for ourselves, reaching out when we feel overwhelmed, and providing our families with resources. There are so many great resources available in this area, and a little bit can go a long ways to meeting a family's needs. Those are all great resources to creating health and wellness for the families we serve in early intervention. But let's talk about health. Working in early intervention, we have a unique opportunity to help shape our family's future health behaviors. By providing education, resources, and support, we can teach parents and caregivers about early childhood development and how to support their baby reaching milestones, help families learn how to structure the physical environment so it's safe for baby. By looking at all of these different variables, whether we're early educators, speech therapists, physical therapists, or occupational therapists, we can address all the domains of health in the families we serve as early intervention providers. But at this point, it's not enough to just be an early intervention provider anymore. We need to become trauma-informed care providers. We can change the outcome. We can bring awareness. We can build support into our families' lives, and together we can do this. Trauma is complicated, but a Maya Angelou quote says it best. When you know better, you do better. Helping parents maintain their mental health is imperative for developing children. Many parents are coming to terms that they themselves were raised best they could, not best practice, and they worry about passing on this negativity to their own children. Prevention, having an open and honest conversation with families about how to help themselves and their own new family, is the first place to start. Because by supporting parents, we support the children we serve. We can provide education, encourage healthy relationships, and recognize how past events are shaping their current decisions. So let's meet the Miller family. Listen to this family's story. As you listen, think about how you would help them honor their highs and respect their lows. On the left, you see Eric, Amelia, Christopher, and and Jane. Eric is a middle school teacher, and Jane is a nurse working the night shift. Their daughter, Amelia, just turned 3. She has struggled sharing attention with her younger brother, Christopher. Eric and Jane typically try to respond to her needs quickly, as Amelia doesn't like to be kept waiting. But at Christopher's 15-month well visit last month, the pediatrician referred the family to early intervention services because Christopher only says data. In the midst of the news, the family has been living through the COVID-19 pandemic. Eric has been trying to teach his students virtually while the children are at home. Jane works longer hours and sleeps very little. Eric and Jane take turns reading to Christopher per their pediatrician's recommendation. Eric and Jane wonder if Christopher's delay is their fault because they've been so stressed. They try to respond to their children as much as possible, but feel overwhelmed themselves. They are willing to do anything to support their family's well-being, but they don't know where to start. You guys do. You told me already. We start by asking the family what's going on this week, what feels most important right now, and listening to the families and letting them tell you where they need help first. To do that, we can work on our check-in question or statement. Joey from Friends is famous for his, "Hey, how you doing?" But what's your check-in statement you use with families? I want to hear it. Can you type it in the chat? How can I be most helpful today? How is everything going this week? Tell me what's been going on. What do you guys need the most today? What are your biggest concerns today? Tell me what's been the most challenging this week. What's new? How did the week go? What's on your mind today? What's gone right? What's gone wrong? What do you need help with? These are all great opening statements. I particularly like, what's something fun you've done together this week? It's a specific question that focuses on the highs. Or any new concerns. Sometimes we need those to know those first. Think about the Miller family. What would you want to ask them? You guys had some great opening statements. Let's move on to our follow-up statement. What feels most important right now? What questions could we ask to find out about the Miller family's top priority? If they say their week is going well, they don't have anything to report on, how could we probe further and find out what their top priority this week is? How's sleep going? That's a great one to check in on. What would you like to focus on today? What's been working well and what hasn't been working? What are your challenges and successes this week? What's the biggest obstacle this week? Those are all great follow-up questions to probe deeper and know what to focus on during our time with the family. If we only have them for 1 hour a week, we want to make sure that we're supporting them the best way we can. To do this, we can cultivate a responsive relationship. Responsive relationships early in life are the most important factor in building sturdy brain architecture. Think of building a house. It's constructed in a certain order, and the foundation establishes a base upon which everything else is built. The same is true with developing brains. Brain architecture is comprised of trillions of connections among neurons across different areas of the brain. These connections enable lightning-fast communications among neurons that specialize in different types of brain function. For children, responsive relationships with adults have a double benefit, both promoting healthy brain development and providing buffering protection needed to prevent against very challenging experiences producing a toxic stress response. I'll say that again because it's important. For children, responsive relationships with adults can help prevent negative stress from toxic events. For adults, it works the same way. Healthy relationships also boost well-being, provide practical assistance and emotional support. They help strengthen hope and confidence, all of which are needed now more than ever. So by building that relationship with our families, we're able to move in and help them lift up the family's highs. So if things are going well this week, how could we make it feel even better? How do we support the strengths and rejoice in the gains their child has made this week? Let's chat about it. What things could we compliment the Miller family on? What things do you think Christopher is doing well? We can focus on positive changes we see, point out their insight and successes with Christopher, encourage the accomplishments, let the Millers know that they're doing a great job. We can refer to earlier stressors or challenges that the family has progressed past. We can be specific, say, wow, you read a new book every day to Christopher? That's great, good job. And if they're not able to get to a book that day, we can remind them there are only 24 hours in a day. We can applaud them for taking the time for our appointment this week. That shows their dedication to Christopher's language progression. We can talk about how great it is that they're being so proactive and how important support is for their children. Those are all fantastic strategies to lifting up the Miller family's highs. But what if it hasn't been a great week? How could we honor the Miller family's lows? How can we as early intervention providers recognize that there are external events in the family's life that we don't see the other 167 hours of the week we're not video calling our families? We could use reflective listening. Being comfortable with the lows takes practice. We don't want the hard things. We want to take time to listen and reflect. We can ask them, what can I do to help you this week? And sometimes that's just listening or letting them know that it's okay. Acknowledge things with them and tell them it's okay. When we intervention providers come in and only talk about the good parts of the week, we're missing an opportunity to support our families through the lows. Having a child in early intervention services can create a grief cycle for parents, and we want to be a safe space to acknowledge that and work on it together. By doing that, we can become a piece to that family's puzzle. Another therapist I worked with gave me my new favorite Goto statement by saying, if this is too much right now, let me know. To me, that statement was powerful. It gave the family back their power and acknowledged that as early intervention providers, we are not the solution. We are a piece of that family's puzzle. When we acknowledge that power and give it back to the families, we start to begin to build resilient families. But what is resiliency? Resiliency is something that all babies are born with. Babies are my favorite example of resiliency because it takes over 10,000 steps of practice from a baby to move from crawling to standing to walking independently. 10,000 practice opportunities that baby stands up, falls over before they learn how to walk independently. Babies are inherently resilient. When they keep trying again and again, knowing that eventually they'll reach their goal, and they're motivated to do it by their caregivers and family around them, that baby is supported in a safe, loving, resilient relationship. And that's something we want to move forward and build into the relationships with families that may not have that capacity yet. That's something we can work with and train into our sessions, because not all babies are lucky enough to be raised in a resilient environment. This might be a new thing for their caregivers and parents. So we can teach it using the 7 C's, or the building blocks of resiliency. You guys can find a link to that handout in your email or into your chat. And it will go over the 7 C's of resiliency with us. The first C is competence. What does that mean? Especially for a young child. The 7 C's breaks it down and makes it concrete. It's the ability to effectively handle various situations, and it's acquired through experience. Children cannot become competent without developing the skills that allow them to trust their own judgment, make responsible choices, and face difficult situations. The next building block is confidence, a solid belief in one's ability. How can we help the Miller family support Christopher's confidence? What things could we do to help Christopher recognize what he did? How do we avoid causing shame when we're talking to the Miller family? Can you get in some ideas you might have to build Christopher's confidence when you work with him?
Andrea, you were cutting out just a little bit,
Okay.
but so I'm just going to go ahead and say it again. So go ahead and type into chat your response to how we can help the family support Christopher's confidence.
We can offer praise to the parents, highlight the things they're doing well, using positive words at all times, and honor all of his attempts at communication. We can also teach parents different ways to encourage Christopher by not just always saying, "Great job." And we can continue to build upon the Miller's family strengths. Those are great ideas in building Christopher's confidence. The next C of resiliency is character. It's a fundamental sense of right and wrong that allows children to stick to their own values and demonstrate a caring attitude towards others. I'm guessing that this might be a strength of the Miller family. If the mom is a nurse and the dad is a teacher, this might be an area that comes really naturally to them. But not all of these building blocks come naturally, such as contribution. That seems like a novel idea for some families. How can a toddler create a contribution to the family? How can we as early intervention providers help the families understand ways for the child to contribute? Can you guys tell me in the chat how the service provider can create opportunities for a child to contribute within the family? Oh, I love the idea of having Christopher make choices, participating within his family routine, and actually doing some of the work and not doing all of the work for him, creating helper activities for Christopher, using age-appropriate chores or jobs, creating routines where the child could help, such as folding or carrying laundry, throwing something in the trash. Those are all great ways that Christopher can contribute to his family. The next C is coping. The capacity to enact a wide array of positive coping strategies that help protect against unsafe behaviors. Research has shown that children who learn to cope with stress are better prepared to overcome challenges. So what kind of positive coping strategies are the Miller family modeling? How can they guide Christopher to develop positive and effective coping strategies? I think Christopher lives in a family environment in which talking, listening, and sharing are safe, comfortable, and productive. That's something we can look into when we're working with the family. The last C, role, something we all wish we had at this point in 2020. We'd feel a lot better and a lot more resilient if we thought we were in control. And the same is true for children. Children who realize that they can control the outcomes of their decisions have more trust in their ability to handle adverse experiences. Whereas children who see control as an external force become passive and pessimistic. How could we help Christopher see that his actions create change? What kind of
Andrea, your audio just cut out. Are you there? Sorry guys, we're just having another technical glitch really quick. I am going to check in with Andrea just to make sure she's okay. Andrea, can you hear me? And actually, I will go ahead and move to the next slide so you guys can go ahead and type into the chat. And the question is, what does supporting your family look like? So when you're supporting the families that you're working with, what are you guys doing to support them? How are you building in that resiliency? So go ahead and type into the chat while we check in with Andrea.
Lisa, while you're checking in, I'll monitor chat. Melinda says offering alternative times for appointments, providing safe space to use encouraging words, and engaging in strength building. So think about, are you guys answering this question for an early intervention family, or are you thinking about what does supporting your family look like? Kylie says address current needs, listen when they speak, offer support and resources when needed. Kylie says she's talking about her EI families. Sherry says acknowledge their successes, helping them prioritize. Always resources, giving resources. Amanda says starting each section with asking how the family's doing. Check in before sessions to see if the day and time still works.
Those are all really nice strategies for supporting our EI families.
Yay, Andrea's back. Okay, Andrea, I'll hand it back and I'll just jump in if we lose you again.
No, that was a great example of having a great supportive team. Thank you, guys. So, moving forward, we know how to support our early intervention families. Let's flip the table. What does supporting yourself look like? You guys can type your answers in the chat. Oh, bubble bath. That one always comes up first. I love it. Spending time alone, taking time to yourself, a whole day, a half day if needed, exercise, movement, meditation, working out during a lunch break, taking a nap, listening to music, getting outside in nature, creating clear boundaries between separating work and home. That's an area that's getting harder and harder to do. Adopt a rescue dog. That's a great one. Taking walks with that dog outside, reading, talking to friends. You guys are hitting on all of the different areas of self-care, including movement, mindfulness, sharing with friends, and creating healthy boundaries. Those are all successful strategies to creating self-care. But how often do we do this self-care for ourselves? I know right now most of us aren't sitting outside on our lunch break or going for a walk. So how do we get to the point where we're not just saying self-care? How do we get to the point where we're doing self-care? We create an action plan. First, we need to recognize our signs of burnout. What are your guys' signs of burnout? You guys can access the self-care action plan in the chat or in the handouts as well. So you guys are saying signs of burnout are feeling overwhelmed, cranky, grumpy, headaches, feeling stressed, having a short fuse, irritable, tired, not feeling well, making more mistakes than we normally would, feeling emotional, Zoom fatigue, muscle aches, having a hard time focusing or concentrating, even vision changes, or thinking you have COVID with a small cough. That kind of extreme thought pattern is a great sign that we might be feeling burnt out if our first go-to is. So now that you guys have identified your signs of burnout, especially noting that you guys feel triggered when anyone coughs, what do? We think back into those stress relievers, into those self-care. So when we're starting to feel grumpy, we can take ourselves off the Zoom call and go for a walk. When we're feeling frustrated, we could take a deep breath. When we're feeling tired, overwhelmed, our muscles might feel a bit achy, that might be a great time to pull in that bubble bath. While we're in that bath, we could pick up the phone and give our friend a call. We can reach out to people for support. And we can create helpful reminders. That's the last part of our self-care action plan, and something I want you to type in the chat. What would be a helpful reminder someone could tell you if they were noticing that you were starting to feel burnt out? What would be a helpful statement when you're in a grumpy mood and need to practice some self-care? What have you done for yourself lately? A direct time for a break. When's the last time we slept or ate? I think we need space to chill out. How could we get a personal time out and take a break and come back later to finish up? Stating that this is temporary, or it's time for a happy hour, depending on where we are in our day. We could go grab coffee with a friend too. Or we can invite a coworker to come with us. We could say, oh, it's time for my walk. Do you want to come with me? Sometimes we need that handout to get us out of that burnout. Even though we're experienced coaching our families through it, sometimes we need someone there to coach us. And that's why we have our self-care action plan. This is something we can put on our own fridge and help us keep us accountable the way we do with our families. Compassionate, recognizing where we're at, but still trying to move forward. I hope this is a tool you guys take. And Nicole said it best. Sometimes the coaches need coaching too. So now we have strategies for our families and ourselves. We could put the 7 C's of resiliency on our fridge for our families, and we can put our self-care action plans on our family's fridge or our own fridge. That way, every day we walk to get a stress snack, we're allowed to remember that this is okay. We can breathe. We can do this. And together we can build resilient families. To build our resilient families, I'll recap. We support the responsive relationships. We strengthen core life skills. We reduce stress. And we practice self-care. Together we can move forward, make progress, and together we can build resilient families. And we can always learn more. There are some great upcoming conferences and trainings focusing on resiliency, stress, and how to move forward. The ICDL conference is going on this month. Hopefully my internet will be back on. I'm giving a talk on neurodiversity and self-regulation. The Attached Network is also hosting a November conference this month where they have sessions spread out throughout the month so you don't get Zoom fatigue. The Developing Child Institute at Harvard has great resources, as well as the CDC Center, Burke Foundation, ACES Connection Center, and the Sesame Street toolkits are one of my personal favorites. You can go on to their website and download family appropriate handouts with fun activities for the families and the kids you work with. Thank you again for sticking with me today. I really appreciate having such a resilient audience.
Resilient audience. As you guys, if you have any questions, go ahead and type them into the chat box. I'm just going to go over a couple of reminders for you all. First, if you are not following us on our social media, I would go ahead and make sure if you use that we are on Facebook, we are on Instagram, we are on Twitter and YouTube. Jeannie can post the links for you. Thank you, Jeannie. And that we always post all the latest resources that we have, any kind of upcoming webinars. Go ahead and save the date for our next talks on Tuesday. That is on December 1st from 12 to 1. And the title is going to be Increasing SLP's Cultural Competence. But I definitely think that's something that anybody can relate to and get some meaningful information out of it. Also, you will go ahead and complete a survey. And Jeannie, if you don't mind dropping the survey link in, and then your certificate will automatically populate once that's completed. And again, thank you so much, Andrea. Thank you all for just being so patient with us as we've gotten through this. This has definitely been one of those things that, I don't know, I just feel like it's like the COVID year. Like, this is just what happens, and it's okay, and we'll get through it. But you guys have always been so wonderful to us. So thank you for your patience and your understanding. We appreciate it. And thank you again, Andrea.
I'll just give a shout out to Andrea. You did a great job, and a shout out to Lisa for facilitating from behind the scene for lots of that. And thanks, Jeannie. I hope you guys have a great day.
Bye. Thank you so much.